Nidhi from Edureka and I welcome you back to Edureka's YouTube channel. In today's exciting session, we will learn about JavaScript. Before we get into the details, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on latest tech content from Edureka. Also remember to check out Edureka's website for training and certification courses. The link is in the description box below. So now let's outline what we will cover in this video. First, we will start with what JavaScript is, the language that makes the website interactive by handling buttons, animations, forms, and more. Then we will cover the basics, variables, data types, and operators, which form the foundation of JavaScript program. After that, we will move on to the control flow and loops. You will see how if-else statement helps make decision and how loops let us repeat the task efficiently. We will also dive into functions which will allow you to write reusable and organized code for better efficiency. Next, we will explore arrays and objects. Arrays will help you to store multiple values while objects will let you structure the data in key value pair. Then we will learn about DOM manipulation, which will enable us to change text, images, and style dynamically on the web page. We will also look at error handling with try-catch, so we can catch and fix the error without breaking the program. And finally, we will wrap up with modern ES6+ features like let_const, arrow functions, and template literals, making coding smoother and more efficient. So now, let us understand what JavaScript is. So JavaScript is an interpreted programming language used to add interactivity, dynamic behavior, and functionality to web applications. It works on the both client side and the server side. On the client side, it runs directly in the browser, making the web pages more interactive. On the server side, with the help of platforms like Node.js, it handles backend operations. So with JavaScript, you will be able to create dynamic and engaging websites that respond to user action, making the web more interactive and functional. So now let's look at some reasons why to learn JavaScript. First, it's easy step for beginners. JavaScript has a simple syntax, making it a great choice if you're just starting your coding journey. Next, JavaScript is in high demand. It's one of the most widely used languages in web development, ensuring great career opportunities. It is also one language to rule them all, meaning you can use JavaScript for both front-end and the back-end development, making it incredibly versatile. Moreover, there are great learning resources available from tutorials to documentation, making it easier to master. Finally, JavaScript has a rich ecosystem and strong community support with countless libraries, frameworks, and an active developer community. You will never feel stuck. So if you are thinking about learning programming language, JavaScript is way to go. So now let's set up the development environment in order to start your coding. So here we have opened our VS Code. This is the IDE that we are going to use for JavaScript. And the first step is to open a folder inside the VS Code. So for that, we will just click on File. After that, we will click on Open Folder. And here you can create a new folder or you can open the previous one. I have already created one new folder. I will just select the folder and I will open it inside my VS Code. So after opening this folder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about some extensions that you need to add in your VS Code. But you can also ignore these extensions if you don't want to add them. It is okay, but I will just suggest you to add some extensions like ESLint. This will basically catch the errors in your JavaScript and fix them. And after that, we have Prettier Code Formatter. I have already installed it inside my VS Code. And you can also add one more extension, that is JavaScript snippets. So these are some extensions that you can add in your VS Code. So after adding extensions, what we are going to do is we are going to create one file inside this folder. Let's say it would be. So our file name is syntax.js. This is because first of all, we are going to learn about the syntax of JavaScript. So let us start with the syntax. That's it. So I will just save this and I will just run this code. So here I can see the output. So this is how you get the output in JavaScript. This is a basic hello world program. Now let us go through it. So first of all, we have written console.log. So console.log is inbuilt function in JavaScript that prints output to the console. It helps us to display the messages, debug code, and test our programs. So after that, inside the parenthesis, we have written hello world. So within double quotes, we have written this hello world, and this is basically a string, which is simply a piece of text. And finally, after that, we have saved the program. So we can also add one semicolon here, but in JavaScript, semicolons are optional, but they help to keep your code clean and readable. So we have seen the output of the code without semicolon, and now we will save this code and we will run it. Again, it is not throwing in errors. So basically, you can see in JavaScript, semicolons are optional. You can keep it or you can remove it. So this basic structure forms the foundation of JavaScript. Every statement follows the similar pattern. We call a function or write an expression, pass the value inside the parenthesis if needed, and then we end it with a semicolon. So that's how JavaScript syntax works at the basic level. So now let's move on to variables in JavaScript. For that, I'm going to create one more file, that is variables in JavaScript. So my file name is variables.js. So now variables are used to store data in JavaScript, and it gives us three ways to store data, that is var, let and const. First of all, we will start with var. So for var, we will just write var. That's it. We have written it. So now here var is basically a storage which is storing the data of fruit, that is apple. So apple is being stored in the var. So this basically is a storage. So what we will do is we will save this code and we will run it. So we cannot see any output because we have not written console.log. We'll just write console.log fruit. That's it. We will just save this code and run it again. After that, we can see the output here, that is apple. So this var allows both reassignment and redeclaration, which can lead to unexpected bugs. That's why we avoid it in modern JavaScript. After that comes let. So we will just write let. So that's it. Again, we will just copy this and paste it. Console.log code. That's it. Save this code and run it. Again, we can see the output here, which is 100. So here, let is flexible because we can update its value, but we can't redeclare it in the same scope, which helps to prevent any mistakes. So this is about let. We have seen the two types of variable declaration, that is var and let, and let's move on to the third one, that is const. That's it. We will just save this code and we will run it. So here we can see the output, which is 3.14. So these are the three ways to declare a variable in JavaScript, that is var, let and const. And also const is a constant, meaning once we assign a value, it can't be changed or redeclared. This is perfect for values that should stay same, like configuration setting or mathematical constants. Now that we understand variables, let's talk about data types in JavaScript. JavaScript basically has two categories for data types, primitive data types and object data types. So now we will make one more file and we will name it as datatypes.js. So first of all, primitive data types. So these are most basic data types in JavaScript. They store single value and are mutable, meaning they can't be changed after they are created. So now that you know the primitive data type, let us look at the example. So these are some primitive data types. So first of all, we have string, after that we have number, after that we have BIGINT, then boolean, then undefined, then null, and then symbol type. So basically, the string tells the sequence of the character. So to write the sequence of the character, we use string. After that is the number type. Any number including decimal and all can be stored here. And after that we have BIGINT. So this is basically used for very large numbers. After that we have boolean type. So boolean type will always give the output in only true or false. So after that we have undefined. So the variable that hasn't been assigned a value yet is stored in undefined type. After that we have null type that represents an empty or unknown value. And after that we have this symbol type, which is for the unique identifier. So we can also check the types of these string using the type of operator. So we have not covered operators yet, so we are going to skip that. But in case you want to check the type, some of you may have the idea of operators. So for that, I'll just give you one example. We will just write console.log and we will write type of string type, and we will save this code. So before running this code, we will just comment this out. So one more thing that I want to tell you is how to comment in JavaScript. So to comment in JavaScript, we can just go to that line and we can press 2 times / that will comment out that line. But if you want to comment the multiple lines, what you're going to do is you are going to select that and you're going to press Ctrl and / 1 time. That's it. And that will comment out those whole line. And after that, again, if you want to uncomment these lines, you are going to select the lines and you have to click Ctrl + / again, and it will uncomment that. So that's it. We will save this and we will run this code. So now let us look at the output here. We have commented this code and we have used this type of operator to know the type of the string that we have written here. So now we will just run this code and here is the output. So it says string. That means it is telling the data type, which is string. So type of the string type is string. I hope you get it. So that's it. This is how you can know the type of any data type. So for this also you can just use console.log type of number type. Then it will give you number, and after that you can also use console.log type of begin, then it will give you begin. So this is how you can identify the data types in JavaScript by using the type of operator. So that's it about the primitive data types. We have this all primitive data type. Now let us move on to the next data types. So before moving forward, one thing to know about null is that even though it represents an empty value, JavaScript incorrectly considers, so this is known as a bug in JavaScript, but we work with it. So the next type of data types are object data types. So object data types are more complex data structures. They can hold multiple values in key value pairs. So we will just see some main object data types. So for that, I'm just going to write one line here. That's it. So you might be wondering why I'm getting this code suggestions. So that is because I added these 2 extensions in my VS Code, that is Codium and Mentalify Code Writer. I was working on a project, and for a smoother experience, like we all know, nowadays we are working with AI and generative AI is at its boom. So we can also include generative AI or AI into our IDEs and we can do the coding more efficiently. And also I was working on a project, and for that reason I added these extensions in my VS Code. So if you want to know about these extensions, you visit the Codium website, and this is just the extension of VS Code, that is Mentalify Doc Writer. That's it. These are the extensions that I have added. That is because I am getting the code suggestions here. So now we will just look at the object data types example. So we will just write const . So this is basically an object with key value pairs. Here we can see the name pair and the age. So these are basically the key value pairs, and we can just create one more, that would be const . So these arrays are the type of the object. So this is how the object data types work. These are basically more complex than the primitive data types, and in normal coding we only use the primitive data types. So for a beginner, you just need to study about primitive data types, and once you have covered these arrays and objects, after that understanding these object data types would be easy for you. So just ignore this part for now. You just don't need to get into that object data types and all for now. And after you have covered the topics of array and object, it will be easy for you to understand the syntax of object data types. So these are just basically the 2 examples of data types in JavaScript. We have seen the both. First one is primitive, and then second one is the object data type. So we also have some more object data types like function data type and all. So for now we will just skip that. For now you just need to focus on the primitive data types, that is number, begin, boolean, undefined, null and symbol. And even from these you need to focus on number, begin, boolean, null and also string, of course. So these will be more useful in day-to-day coding. So that's it about the data types in JavaScript. Let's talk about the operators in JavaScript. So for that we are going to make one more file, that will be operators.js. That's it. Now first of all, let us see what are the operators in JavaScript. So operators are simple that perform operations on values or variables. JavaScript provides different types of operators, and here are the key ones. So the first one is assignment operator, which is used to assign the value to the variables. For example, is equal to assigns the value like let x is equal to 10. We know that. After that, we have comparison operators that helps to compare values like checking if two numbers are equal with double equal to or triple equal to. We will just look at the example after this. And after that, we have arithmetic operator, which is used for basic mathematic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. After that, we have bitwise operator that works at the binary level, mostly used for advanced programming scenarios. After that, we have logical operators, which is used for conditions like and, or not. And after that, we have conditional operators, also known as ternary operator. It helps in writing short conditional expressions like condition, then we will give value 1, and after that we provide value 2, and then just a question mark. So this is basically the syntax. You won't understand right now, we will just look at the practical. After that, at last we have string operator, mainly the addition operator, which helps to concatenate or join these strings like hello to the world, resulting in hello world. So each of these operators play a crucial role in JavaScript coding. Now let us see some more example to understand it better. So now let us look at some of the operators. So first of all, we will start with the arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are basically plus, minus, division, percent or multiplication. So these are basically the arithmetic operators. Let us look at the example. So here we have written let a is equal to 10 plus 5, and then we have written let b is equal to 2 into 3. So here this plus sign is an arithmetic operator. So here you can see we have used double asterisk. That means it is used to give the exponential power to the variable. So we all know the output here. So here the output will be 8. So these are the arithmetic operators. So now let us move on to the assignment operator. So here I have written let x is equal to 10. That means 10 is being assigned to x. For that we have used the assignment operator, that is equal to. So this is the assignment operator. So once again we will look at one more. So here we have assigned x the value plus 5, and we have assigned the x value multiply into 2. So here the output will be 15. That means x is 10 and plus 5 would be 15. And after that x is 15 now, and here we have provided the multiplication and it's into 2. So the output will be 30. So I hope you are understanding this. First of all, we have provided the value to x here, that is 10. After that, we can also give the assignment operator like this, or we can also give the assignment operator like this. So these are basically the syntaxes. So if you will practice more and more about the syntaxes and the structure of JavaScript, you will get familiar with the syntaxes and structure. So here we have added 5 to the x value. So the x value currently we have is 10, and after adding 5 it would be 15. And after that we have multiplied the same x value to 2. So the output would be 30 here. So now let us move on to the next operator. Here we have covered two operators, that are arithmetic operators and assignment operators. So now we will go to the comparison operator. So for that I have just written console.log 5 is equal to 5. So for one more reference, I will just write console.log 5 triple equal to 5. So now we will just print the output. So here we can see that we have written console.log 5, and then we have provided the assignment operator and then 5. And after that we have written 5 and triple is equal to and 5. So in this both cases the output would be different. So now if you know the answer, please comment down in the comment box, and if you don't know the answer, we will just go through it. So these are basically two types of comparison operators. The first one we have 2 is equal to. So it basically checks the equality, but it is loose. So it basically ignores the fact that we have written the string here. We have provided the 5 inside double inverted commas, which makes it as a string. It will basically check that here we have 5, here we have 5. So it will return true. That is why we say that it shows the loose equality. After that we have here triple is equal to. So this basically is the comparison operator that has strict equality. So this basically will give the output of false, because this operator will not ignore the fact that this is 5 in number value and this 5 is in string value. and it will give the output as false. After that, one more comparison operator we have, that is greater than. So in this case, the output would be true because of course 5 is greater than 3. So now let us move on to the next operator, that are logical operators. So for that we are again going to write console.log true, and here we have used the AND operator and we have provided true and false. So now if you guys are familiar about the logical operators, so which we also have covered in class 8th or 10th. So basically we have replaced the 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0 with true and false. So we all know that what is the output of true, false using AND operator, which is false. And again we will see one more. So again, if we use true, false with the OR operator, then the output will be true. So to learn this concept, you have to go through your old books, because we have been taught in class 8th, 9th and secondary education that what are AND operators, what are OR operators, or what are NOT operators and all. So again, for one more example, we have this NOT operator. Here we can see not true. We have written this not true. So this will basically give the output as false. So now that we have covered the logical operators, let us move on to the bitwise operators. So for bitwise operator, I'm just going to write 5 and 1, and after that one more, we are just going to write 5 or 1. So here the output will be AND 1, and here the output will be OR 5. So if you know about the bitwise, how it is performed at bit by bit level, you will get to know about this output. And if you don't know about this, so you just need to cover the concepts of computer architecture, and by that you can just easily grab the bitwise operator. So now after that, let us move on to next thing, that is ternary operator. So for that I'll just write let age is equal to 20 and let status is equal to age less than 18, adult or minor. That's it. So this is how the ternary operators are used. These are basically the short way to write about the conditional statements. So here what we have done is we have given the age 20, and after that we have again created one variable, that is status, and inside that we have mentioned if it is more than 18, then the result will be adult, and if it is equal to or less than 18, it will be minor. So after that we have the type of operator, which we have already seen, but we will just look at the output here. So here we have written console.log type of hello and console.log 5 instance of number. So that's it, and here we know that the output will be string here, and the output here will be primitive data type. That's it. Now what we have next is we have string operators left. So let us go through the string operator. Here we have given let name is equal to Alice plus Smith. So here what we are doing is we are concatenating the string. We are using this plus sign that basically will concatenate this string, that is Alice and Smith. So after going through this all operators, we will just look at the output. So now comes the special operator. So we will just write console.log. So this basically checks an array index existence, and it will basically check if this 2 is in the array, and it will return the value as true or false. So now we have gone through all the operators. We will just save this and look at the output. So here is the output. We can just look at it. We have not written console.log after this. So it is not printing the value of A and X over here. It is just starting from here. So as I told you, this will provide you true value. It is true. This will give you false value. It is false. After that, we have performed the logical operator. This true and false will give you false. True or false will give you true. After that, again we have not true, that is false, and then again we have this bitwise operator. So after that we have this, and it is giving you the type of the string. Again we have not given the console.log here, so it is not giving me the output. So here it is giving me the output type of hello, which is string. So here it is false because it is the primitive data type, and after that we have not given console.log, so we don't have the output of Ellis and Smith. And after that we have this true value, which means that 2 exists in this array. So these are basically the operators in JavaScript. We have covered the operators in JavaScript. Now what we are going to do is we are going to look at some questions of operators in JavaScript. There are 2 questions which are type of lead code questions, and one question we will solve together, and the next question will be for your homework. You can just solve it by yourself. After covering the operators, just have the practical implementation of operators, and then we can move on to the next topic. So we have these 2 questions of operators here. The first question is given 2 numbers a and b. Use the modulus operator to find the remainder when a is divided by b. And the second question is given an integer n. Return true if it is the power of 2, otherwise return false. So we are just going to work on this question, and this question will be for your own practice. So now we will just solve this question. Now to solve this question, we will make one more file. We will name it as operator question.js, and now we know the question. So for this question we want 2 variables that are a and b, and after that we need to divide it. So whenever you are dealing with a coding question, the first thing that you should do, first create the logic inside your mind. So now the question that we are going to work on, for that we need 2 variables that are a and b, and then we need to print the remainder. So we will just start with let a is equal to 10, then let b is equal to 3, and after that we will just make one more variable, let remainder is equal to a, and then we have used this modulus operator, and then b. So after this we will just print this console.log, the remainder when %a is divided with b is this. So that's it. So here we have given a. We can just directly write 10 here because we have assigned value to 10, and we can write b. But we have written this in the case, let's say we are taking the input from the user. So then the user gives the input, and after that we have to read a, then read b, and then print the remainder. So for now we have given the a as 10, b as 3, and then we are printing the remainder a modulus b inside the remainder. We'll just save this and we will just run this code. So the remainder when 10 is divided by 3 is 1. So this is the output of this code. We have solved the first question. We have used the modulus operator here. We have assigned the value first, and after that we have used the modulus operator, and then we have printed the result. So that's it about the first question. And the second question, in which you have to find out the exponential power that you need to do by your own. So now we have covered operators in JavaScript. Now we will move on to control flow and loops. So until now we have covered the syntax and structure, how to comment in JavaScript, what are the data types, what are the operators, and we have also seen one question in JavaScript. So now it's time to move on to control flow and loops. And in control flow and loops, the first thing that we are going to cover is conditional statements. So we will create one file here. We will name it as conditional.js. In this we are going to look at the conditional statements. So first of all, I will give you the overview of conditional statements. So conditional statements basically are if, else, or else if. If JavaScript is your first programming language, then of course these words are new for you, that is if, else if, or else. So if you have studied C, C++, or Java, so these languages, if you have studied for once also, then you are very familiar with conditional statements. So for the people who don't know about the conditional statements, I will just give you overview. So basically these are 3 conditional statements: if, else, and else if. So there are more, but we normally work on these 3. So just imagine one scenario. You are given 2 fruits, oranges and apples, and you are given choice that you have to select one of the fruit. So you will select either apple or orange, right? So if you will select oranges, then there will be no oranges left. If you select apples, then there will be no apples left. So I want to mention it in document. Let's say you have selected oranges and the value of oranges is equal to 0 now. So I will mention it in document as if Nidhi is equal to oranges, and after that I will give the statement then oranges is equal to 0. That means if Nidhi has selected oranges, then the amount of oranges are 0. Or else I will give the else statement. else oranges are 20. Let's say I have not selected oranges and I have selected apples. In that case, the oranges will be 20. That means we are assuming that the number of oranges were 20. So I hope you understood how we use if-else statement. Now we will understand through example. So let's say let marks is equal to 85. We have given one variable that is marks and we have assigned the value as 85. So if marks is greater than or is equal to 10, we will just give the statement here, console.log grade A. Okay. If the student is passed with marks greater than or is equal to 9, then console.log grade A. That means if the marks are greater than or is equal to 9, then the student has passed with the grade A and it will print grade A. Else, if marks greater than or is equal to 80, console grade B. And we have given one more statement, that is else if it is greater than or is equal to 80, then grade B. And one more statement, else if, again we will do for 70. Again we will do for 70. And at last we will do grade D, needs improvement. That's it. So we have written the statement of if else here. We have given the marks as 85. If the marks is greater than or is equal to 90, grade A. If the marks is greater than or is equal to 80, grade B. Else if, grade C, and else D. So here we can notice we have used if, else if, and else. So in all these cases, we are covering some of the criteria, that is of 90, 80 and 70. Let's say the student is not meeting any of the criteria mentioned here. So that is why at last we have provided one else statement, that if that student is not meeting any of this criteria, then they will fall into the section of else and they need improvement. So let's just save this code and run it. So here it is grade B. That means the marks that we have provided is 85. So now that 85 is falling into grade B. So that's it about the if, else if and else statement. So these are the conditional statements. Now let's move on to the ternary operator. So ternary operator are basically the shortest way to write the conditional statements. That is, we have already covered this in our operators. So this is basically the ternary operator. So we will just look at one more example of ternary operator and then we will move on to the switch statements and loops. So for ternary operator, again we are going to make one more file here and it will be ternary.js. So now let's look at the ternary operator. I'll just close these files here. Let's have a look at the example of ternary operator. So first of all, we'll start with let age is equal to 20. Then let can vote age is greater than 18. Yes, you can vote. No, you are not young. So that's it. After that, console.log can vote. So that's it. Here is the first example of ternary operator. We will just save this. Here I guess you already understand by these statements. The age is given 20 and after that we have given this ternary operator and we have mentioned two of the statements here. If they fulfill this age, this will be the output, and if they not, then this will be the output. Let's run it. So you can see the output here. Yes, you can vote. Now let's look at another example. Let price is equal to 25. Let discount is equal to price. That's it. So yeah, that's it. Here again we have one more example. Let's move on to one more example. Let number is equal to 7. Okay, so here we have let price is equal to 25. Discount price is less than 30, then 10% discount or no discount. So then we will just print the discount. After that, one more example we have. Let number is equal to 7. Let result is equal to number modulus 2% is equal to 7. If it is 0, then even or else odd. Now let us save this code and we will just look at the output here. Now the first one, of course, we know yes, you can vote, and after that we have no discount because price is less than 30, and after that we have this odd because 7 will be divided by 2, then the remainder will be 1, not 0. So this is all about ternary operator. You can just look at this syntax here, how do we write ternary operators, and that's it. These are basically the short way to write the if-else condition. Now we will move on to next thing, that is loops. And in loops we are going to cover for loop, while loop and do while loop. So now we are moving on to the loops. For that we are going to create one more file, that will be loops.js. And inside this loop.js we are going to cover 3 loops, that is for loop, do while loop and while loop. So along with for loop, do while loop and while loop, we will also cover the break and the continue statement. So let's get started with the loops. I hope you have a basic idea of loops. So loop is basically running these same statements over and over again until the condition gets satisfied. So let's say first of all we will look at for loops. So we will just write here console.log for loop. Okay. So after that we will start for loop by writing for, and after that we will start giving the condition let I is equal to 1. So first of all we have initialized the I with 1. After that we will mention the condition, that is I smaller than equal to 5, then I plus plus. So this is how you write loop. First of all we will initialize the I. Here we have initialized with let I is equal to 1. After that we have mentioned the condition here, that is I less than is equal to, and then we have given what we need to perform. We need to perform I plus plus, that means we need to add the value to I. So after that we will write here console.log count I. So after that console.log count I, that means it will print I. That's it. We will just look at one more example. This is how you perform for loop. Now let's say console.log while loop. So for while loop again we will do let counter is equal to 3. First of all we have initialized the counter with 3. After that we will give the statement as while. Then we will mention the condition inside this, that is counter less than 0 console.log t minus counter minus minus. So that's it. This is how you write the syntax of while loop. So here we have given first of all initialized the counter with 3. After that we have given the statement until the counter is equal to 0. Until then you have to do counter minus minus. That means we have to subtract from 3 until 3 is 0. So now we will move on to the next example, that is console.log do while loop. So inside this do while loop we will just see let num, we have declared num, then do num math.floor. We will just give one inbuilt function here. So it will just select a random number and it will multiply it with 5 and it will print the random number until number is not equal to 0. Okay, so we will just write console.log break example here. So for break example again we are going to use for loop. So for let I is equal to 1, I is smaller than is equal to 10, then I plus plus, and inside this we are writing the if statement. If we have used the strong equity operator here, and console.log stopping 6 break. That's it. And then console.log I. So that's it. Here we have seen the example of for loop, while loop, do while loop and break statement. One more example we will see of continue statement. Console.log continue example. Again we will use for loop. So that's it. We have written the codes for loop, while loop, do while loop, break statement and continue statement. So here for loop we have written until the I is smaller than or equal to 5, we are incrementing the I. So for do while we have initialized the counter with 3, we will decrement the 3 until it is 0. So for do while what we have done is we are selecting a random number and we are multiplying it with 5 until it is not equal to 0. And for the break statement again we have applied one for loop here, and inside that we have given condition I is strongly equal to 6, then stop at 6, break this statement. After that, for continue example, what we have done here is console.log continue example, and we have started a for loop here, and we have given one statement here. If I is strongly equal to 3, then skip 3 and continue the rest until 5. So we will just save this code and we will run it. So you can see the example. For loop we have count 1 to 5. Okay, now it is fulfilling the condition at 5, so it stopped here, right? After that, you can see the while loop example, t minus 3 to 1, right? After that, we have do while. So it is selecting the random number in between of 0 to 5. So after that, we have break example. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and it is stopping at 6. After that, we have continue example. We have written here skipping 3 and 4 and 5. That means it is skipping 3. We have just written here skipping 3 in place of 3. So that's it about the loops. These are the loops in JavaScript: for loop, while loop and do while loop. So what we are going to do now is we are going to solve questions on the basis of conditional statements and loops. So let's move on to the question. Again, we will be having 4 questions. That means 2 on loops and 2 on conditional statements, from which we will solve here one question of conditional statement and one question of loops. So first of all, we have this conditional statement question. This is the question that we are going to solve. Write a JavaScript statement that checks a student's score and prints their grade based on following conditions, that are: if the score is 90 or above, print A; score is 80 to 89, print B; score is 70 to 79, print C; score is 60 to 69, print D; and below 60, print F. And this is the question given an integer n. This question you are going to solve by yourself. So now let's move on to VS Code and we are going to solve this question. So now to solve that question, what we are going to do is we are going to make one file. Let's say we will write conditional question.js. So in that question, we are going to use if, else and else if. We are going to create those 5 scenarios. So let us get started. So now we are going to start the question. Let us say we will just give let score is equal to 85, and after that we will create one if condition. If score is greater than or equal to 90, then the condition would be console.log A. After that we will create one more case, else if score is greater than or equal to 80, then console.log B. After that again else if 70, then console.log C. After that else if score smaller than equal to 60, console.log D, or else console.log F. So that's it. This was the question. We have created these 5 scenarios, and let us save this and we will just run this code. So let's look at the output. So we have given it as 85 and the output is B. So that's it. This was the question here. We have solved this question, and the second question you are going to solve it by yourself. Now let's move on to the loops question. So for loops also we have these 2 questions. This is the question: given an integer n, use a loop to print number from 1 to n. Given an integer n, use a loop to calculate the sum of the first n natural numbers. So the first one is the question that we are going to solve together, and the second one you are going to solve it by yourself. So given an integer n, use loop to print number from 1 to n. So for loops question, again we are going to make one more file here. We will just write loops question.js. So for this question, what we are going to do is we are going to take an input from the user, that is n, and then we are going to print the number from 1 to n. We are just going to write let n is equal to 10, and for let I is equal to 1 if the I is smaller than equal to n I plus plus, and console.log I. That's it. Control plus S, and we will look at the output. So this has been printed. This is the output. So that's it about loops. There was one more question in loop that you are going to solve it by yourself. And one more thing that we are going to cover in loops is pattern. How to build a pattern. So if you want to get a grab on loops, and if you want to build logic of loops very easily, then get started with patterns. Try to form as many as patterns you can. Once you have the idea of forming a pattern, then you will have a great command on loops. So for understanding patterns, we will just create one file here, patterns.js. So there are two patterns that we are going to create here. First one will be ascending triangle pattern and the second one will be descending triangle pattern. So for that, let's say we'll just write ascending triangle 1 to 6. So we will just write console.log ascending triangle. Then first of all, we are going to work with loops. We are working on for loops. For loops, we will just say let I is equal to 1. If I is smaller than n is equal to 6, I plus plus. And then condition we are going to give let string space for let j is equal to 1, j is smaller than I, j plus plus, and string plus star. That's it, console.log string. So that's it. Here what we have done is we have created nested loop. That means we have created one loop under another loop. So if you are familiar with nested loop, this would be very easy for you. And if you are not familiar with nested loops, then let me explain you. We have first started one loop, that is for loop. In that we have printed spaces. First we have printed the spaces until 6, and after that we have printed the stars. Inside that I loop we have started one j loop, and then we have printed the stars, and at last we have printed the string of stars that will be in our triangle pattern. Now let us write the code for descending triangle. From 6 to 1, console.log descending triangle. So for let I is equal to 6, if I is greater than 1, I minus minus, then again let string is equal to space, then one more loop we are going to start, that is j, and we will be printing stars. Then we are going to write console.log string. That's it. This is the descending triangle pattern. We will just save this and we will run it. Now let us look here. So this is the ascending triangle pattern right here, and this is the descending triangle pattern right here. So these are the two patterns that we have printed. So you can just pause the video and you can go through the syntax. So you need to practice over and over again to get hands on the pattern part. So if you will basically if you will learn how to create patterns, this loops will be very easy for you. The logic building in loops will be very easy for you once you get hands on creating the patterns in loops. So now we have covered the control flow and loops. So in this section we have covered conditional statements, that is if, else or else if, and then we have covered the ternary operators. After that we have covered the loops, for, while, do, while, and then we have also covered the break and the continue statement, and also we have covered the patterns. So that's it about the control flow and loops. Now what we are going to do is we are going to move on to function. So now after covering control flow and loops, we are going to cover functions. So now this is the most important part. This is where JS gets a little bit tough. Before this, these loops, conditional statements, data types, operators, syntax, ternary operators and everything are very easy. Now we are going to move on to functions. So in this section, we are going to learn function declaration, function expression. We will be learning about arrow functions, parameters and arguments, and return statements. So these are the things that we are going to cover in this functions. And now let us make one file for functions, functions.js. Let us get started with the function declaration. We will just close these files here. So now let us get started with the function declaration. So a function declaration defines a function with the name and the parameters. So let us now declare a function. So we will just write function add num1, num2, and then return num1, num2. So here what we have done is we have declared function num1 and num2 in the first line, and after that we have added the return statement, that is num1 and num2. Let me comment here. This is the return statement. Okay. So now after this we are going to add the console.log. So console.log addition. So add 5 and 3. Right. So now what we have done, this is the function that we have created. We have first declared the num1 and num2. After that we have added the return statement. The return statement will be num1 plus num2. So that's it. And after that, in console.log, what we have done is we have provided the num1, that is 5, and we have provided the num2, that is 3. So this basically is the function that we have created, and after that we have added this console.log what we need in the output. So the output of course here will be 8, right? So that's it. We will just save this and run this code. Here we can see the addition is 8. So here we declare the function. After that we give the statement on which the function should be applied. So this is called function declaration, writing the function, declaring the function, and then adding the return statement to it, and then after writing whatever we need the function to be executed on. So after that, let us see what is the function that we have declared here. The function is addition, of course, and after that inside the parenthesis we have this num1 and num2, and then we have this return statement. So this will basically call the function and add 5 and 3, and the output is 8 here. So now let us move on to the function expression. So after the function declaration comes the function expression. So again, for function expression, what we are going to do is const multiply function ab and return a into b. That's it. After that we are going to write console.log multiplication, and then the function we are going to call, which is multiply 4 and 5. So here we have written the function expression. This is basically a function can be assigned to a variable. So this function is going to be assigned to this variable, that is 4 and 5. Here we have created an anonymous function, a function without a name, okay, and we are calling it by the multiply 4 and 5. So think of it as a saving a contact in your phone. Instead of dialing a number every time, you call the saved number. So that's it. We are just going to save it, and let us look at the output. It is multiplication 20. So now we have covered how to declare the function and what is function expression. Now the next thing that we need to cover is arrow function. So first I am going to write the arrow function, and then I am going to explain it. So first of all, I'll write const divide x and y, and then return x divided by y, console.log division, divide, we are giving the values 20 and 4, and that's it. So here what we have done is we have used this arrow function right here. So the arrow replaces the function keyword. First of all, we have not written the function keyword here. We have written the function keyword here, right? So we have not written the function keyword here. So yeah, the arrow replaces the function keyword. It works exactly like function declaration but more concise. So think of it as a shortcut. Instead of typing full function, you can write a quicker version of it. So we will just save it and look at the output, which is division 5. That means 20 divided by 4 is division 5. So this is the arrow function. Arrow function is basically the concise way to write the full function, nothing else. So now what we are going to do is we are going to cover the function without return. So now to cover the function without return, we are going to write the code function greet name and console hello and name. Console.log greet result, greet Alice. That's it. So here greet Alice prints hello Alice, but also does not return anything. Since there is no return, the function output is undefined. So think of it as an announcement. You hear it, but you don't get anything in return. So we will just save it and we will run it. So great result is undefined. So this is about the function without return. And now comes the part where we are going to cover the parameters versus arguments. So parameters is a placeholder inside the function, and argument is actual value passed. So this is the basic difference that you need to know. So a parameter is a placeholder inside the function, and the argument is the actual value which is passed. So now let us move on to the parameters versus arguments. So we are going to write a function here. So we will write function calculate BMI with weight and height. So these are basically the parameters, right? And after return, we will write weight divided by height into height. That's it. And then we are going to write console.log BMI and calculate 70 and 1.5 to fixed 1. That's it. We will save this code and run it. So here the BMI has been calculated. So here the thing to notice is weight and height are the parameters which are the placeholders here, and 70 and 1.5 are the argument which are the actual value passed. So here weight and height are the parameters and 70 and 1.5 are the argument. The function calculates the BMI and returns the value rounded to 1 decimal place. That's why we have written is to fix to 1. That means it rounds up to the 1 decimal place. Now think of it like an oven. So parameters are the dials, temperatures and time, and the argument are actual inputs like cake batter or the cookies. So now we have covered the parameters and arguments. So now what we are going to cover is anonymous functions as arguments. So that means the functions that can be passed as arguments to the other functions. First of all, we will pass an anonymous function inside. So we will just write the set timeout function, console.log. This runs after 1 second. That's it. So here we pass an anonymous function inside the set timeout which executes after 1 second. So this function does not have name but still works, right? So think of it like a timer. It runs function after a delay. We will save it and run it. So after 1 second this function has been executed. So that's it about the anonymous function as arguments. Now what we will cover is, we will cover arrow function with implicit return. So this is the last part in functions. We are going to cover arrow function with implicit return. So arrow function can return values without using return if written in one line. So if we are creating an arrow functions within one line, we are not exceeding it from one line, then it can return values without the return. So let us look at the example now. So here we are going to create one arrow function, that is const square is equal to n into n, and here it is, I will just put the comment, no auto return. And then we are going to write console.log square of 5, and then it will return the square of 5. That's it. So here, since the function has only one line, we don't need to write the return, and the square of 5 will automatically give the square of 5. We will just save this, Ctrl S, and run it. So here we can see the output square of 5. So this function is running after 1 second. This is because the output is at last, even though we have written this code first. So after this we have the current output. The square of 5 is 25. So that's it about the arrow function with implicit return. So think of it as a shortcut key, a quick way to get result. So basically we create arrow functions to get quick results only. So that's it about functions. So now that we have covered the functions part, now it's time to solve one question related to function, and there will be one more question which you are going to solve by your own. So here are the two questions of function that we are going to cover. So the first question is, write a function multiply AB that takes two numbers as input and returns their product. So this is the function that we are going to create, and write a function factorial n that returns the factorial of given number n. This is the function that you are going to create. So now let's move on to the VS Code, and we are going to create this function. So for this question, let us make a file here. Let us say function question.js. So now we are going to create a function to multiply the num. So let us write function, and then name of this function is multiply. Then we have passed the a and b, and we have the return statement as a into b. So here the parameters are a and b, and the return statement states a into b, and then console.log. We are calling the function multiply 5 and 3. Then console.log multiply 7 and 2. That's it. These are the two things that we are going to multiply. Let us save this and run it. So here is the output 15 and 14. These are the two outputs, and that's it. This is the function that we have created for multiplication of two numbers. Here we have created the function, then we have added the return statement. We have passed two parameters here. Here are the two parameters, and then we have printed the multiplication. So that's it. There is one more question for functions that you are going to do it by yourself. So now after covering function, now it is time to move on to arrays and objects. So now we are going to cover the arrays and object. In array we are going to cover the common methods of array, that is push, pop, shift, unshift, splice and slice. And in objects also we are going to cover key value pairs, ascending properties, adding, modifying, deleting the properties. These are the things that we are going to cover in arrays and objects. Now let's move on. So first of all, we are going to create one file here that will say array.js. That's it. So first of all, let us know what arrays are. So arrays basically allows you to store and manage multiple values efficiently. So let us start with creating an array. So we can create array by listing multiple values inside the square brackets. So here is an example. Let us name the array. Let fruits be apples, bananas and oranges. So this is the array that I have created. So this is how you create an array. First of all, we will just write the array name, and after that we will provide the values to those array inside the square brackets. So here the next line would be const number. That's it. So this, first of all, I have created the array of these fruits name, then after that I have created the array of numbers. So that's it. This is how you create the array. So fruits is an array containing different fruit names and number is an array of numbers. So this is how you create an array. After that, let's move on to assigning array elements. Now assigning array elements. So each element in array has an index, right? Starting from 0, we can access elements like this. I will tell you. So we assign elements like this. Console.log, first fruits, 0 index. Console.log, third number 2. So now let's see what gets printed. Control S and Control S, and let us run this code. So here first fruit is apple and third is 0. So we don't assign the indexes. Basically it is pre-assigned, like it is by default 0th. So we count it like 0 index, index 1, index 2, like this. This is 0 index, index 1, index 2, index 3 and index 4. So here we have written fruit at the 0 index. So at the 0 index we have apple, and at the second index of numbers we have 3. So this is the output. So this is how you assign array elements. So that's it. Now we will move on to the modifying an array. So we can change elements in array just like updating the variables. For example, let's see. So in the fruits array at index 1 we have banana. We will change it to pear, and then console.log modified fruits. Control S, and let us look at the output. So here we can see the banana has changed to pear. That's it. This is how you modify an array. Now let's move on to adding and removing the elements from an array. So yeah, for adding or removing an elements from array, we can just use push to add an item to the end and pop to remove the item from the last. Let us look at the example here. So we will just write fruits.push grape. So we will just comment add grape, and console.log added grape fruit. So the output will be apple, pear, oranges and grape. After that we are going to remove. So we will remove the last item using pop, and console.log removed last item fruits, that is grape. So that's it. We will just save this code and run it. Here is the added grape and here is the removed grape. So that's it. This is how you modify the array using pop and push. You use push to add an element at last, and you use pop to remove an element from the last. So the next thing to cover in arrays is checking the array length. So we can find out how many elements in array are there by using the length. So we will just write console.log number of fruits.length. That's it. This is how you check the length of an array. We will just save it and we will run it. And here we can see the output. The length of the array is 3. That's it. Now the next thing that we are going to cover is common methods of array. So inside the common methods of array, we are going to cover push, pop, which we have already seen, but we are going to again cover that. We will cover push, pop, unshift, shift, slice and splice. So for that, we are just going to make one more file here. Methods array.js. That's it. So the first thing that we are going to cover in methods of array is finding the index of the element. So if you want to find the position of the element, we use .index of. For example, we'll just write console.log index of apple in fruits, index of apple. So the one thing is I have not included the code in this file, so we will just go to, what was the file name? It was, I guess, array.js. We will just copy this and we will just paste the code here. So here we have added the rest of the code in this file and we have written console.log index of apple. Inside fruits, we need to know the index of apple here. So we will just save this code and run it. So here is the index of apple, that is 0. Of course, we know that the index of the apple is 0 here. So that's it. This is how you find the index of any elements. So now let us see how can we check if the element exists in an array or not. So to check if an item is an array, we use .include. So we are going to write console.log has banana fruits.include in banana. That's it. So we will just save this and run this code. So it is returning me false. So we have this updated array. In this, the banana is not included, so it is returning me false statement. So that's it. This is how you check if any element is present in an array or not. So now what we are going to see is joining array elements into string. So we can use .join to combine array elements into single string. So now here we are going to write how we can join the elements. So now we are going to write the code for the join. We'll just write console.log fruits string fruit join, and that's it. We are just going to save it and run it. So here you can see in the output, here apple, pear and oranges has been joined with the use of AND. So there are so many methods, but for now we are just covering this. Now what we are going to do is we are going to cover push, pop, shift, unshift, slice and splice. One more document we will make, and that's it. And now again we are just going to make one array and we will cover push, pop, shift, unshift, slice and splice in that. So now let's start with creating an array. First of all, we will give the push example. Let fruit is equal to apple, banana. Now again we will push cherry into this and console.log push fruits. And after that, pop example we have. So these two we have already covered, push and pop for deleting and adding any element. Now let us move to the shift example. So in shift example, we will use .shift. So console.log after shift fruits removed shifted fruits. That's it. Now we will just move on to unshift. In unshift example, we will just unshift apple, and that's it. Now comes the splice. In splice example, we will be adding, and then comes the splice example of removing. And after that we have replacing in splice. We'll just replace orange with kiwi here. So these are some basic methods. You just need to look at the syntax. Rest all is self-explanatory, and that's it. Here we have covered splice replacing, splice removing, splice adding, shift and unshift, pop and push. So that's it. We will just shift the code. You can just go through the code once. We have created one array of apple and banana. Then we have added cherry. And then we have popped the last fruit. And after that we have shifted. And then we have unshifted the apple. After that we have added mango. And after that we have removed. And we are providing the indexes here. After that we have replaced the item. Now we will run this code. Now here you can see the output. We have pushed cherry. We have removed cherry. We have removed the apple. We have shifted it. Then we have unshifted it. After that we have added mango. Then we have removed here the grape. And then we have replaced with orange. So these are some methods in array. So this is how you remove, you add, you shift, you unshift, and everything you can do in this array. After that, So inside array, we have studied some common method, how to check the length, how to include the elements, how to push, pop and everything. So this is what we are going to cover in array today. Now we have two questions of array as well. Now the first question that we are going to solve, and the second question you are going to solve it by yourself. So these are the two questions of array. So the first question is, given an array of numbers, find and return the largest number of array. And the second question is, given a sorted array nums, remove the duplicate elements in place so that each unique element appears only once. The relative order of the elements should be maintained. So this is the first question that we are going to solve here, and the second question you are going to solve by yourself. So given an array of numbers, find and return the largest number in the array. So now for array question, we are going to make one more file. Here we are going to solve the question. First of all, we have to design an array with the numbers, and then we have to figure out and print the largest number out of it. So yeah, first of all, we are going to make one array. Let numbers is equal to 10, 25, 78, 56, 89, 23 and 99. That's it. After that, we will make one more variable. Let largest number at the 0th index. And after that, we are going to run one loop. Let I is equal to 1. If I is smaller than numbers length, I plus plus. And inside that, we are going to mention the condition. If numbers I is greater than the largest number, then we need to replace that number with the largest number. And console.log, the largest number in the array is largest. So that's it. We will save this code and we will print. So the largest number is 99. So I hope you get it. First of all, we have created the array and we have assigned some value to it. After that, we have created one more variable to which we have given the position of 0th index, and after that we have started one loop. Inside that we have given the condition that if I is not the largest, then replace it with the largest number. Okay, so that's it, and it is giving me the largest number. So you can just pause the video and go through the code and you will just understand that. So this is the array question that we have covered, and the second question I hope you can do it by yourself. So that's it for the arrays. Now the next thing that we are going to cover is DOM manipulation. So inside the DOM manipulation, what we are going to cover is selecting elements, manipulating elements, handling events. So these are the three things that we are going to cover in the DOM manipulation. Now to move on to DOM manipulation, first thing that we are going to do is we are going to make one more file for DOM manipulation. But we can perform DOM manipulation in the HTML file. So we are just going to make the HTML file index.html. Now, first of all, let us understand what is DOM manipulation. So the DOM manipulation refers to the process of dynamically changing, adding or removing elements, styles and content from the web page using JavaScript. It allows the web developers to interact and modify the structure and appearance of the website in real time. So this is what DOM manipulation is. And now we are going to start with the practical part of DOM manipulation with the help of HTML code. So first of all, we are going to write the HTML code here. So this is the boilerplate code that we are going to write. So we are just adding the HTML element that we will manipulate. Button we have created, and heading we have given, and one div class we have created. So what we are going to do is, div is closed here, button tag is closed there, and that's it. After that, input type is text input, placeholder will be enter your name. Then we have created one list, and inside this we are going to mention the script, right? So here also we will just enter the query selector. I will explain this code to you. So now we are manipulating the elements here. Now we are writing the code of changing the style. This is basically the CSS code. We are providing inline CSS, inline JS, and we are adding the CSS class here. Now let's create the elements. we'll look at the event handling later. So I have just entered the event handling part. So now let us go through the code here. So the first thing that I have done is, so this is basically the HTML code. We have created one button, then div class, and then we have provided the input type. So here comes the const title document name. So basically it selects the h1 element with the ID main title. After that we have the query selector with click me button. This selects the button using the ID. After that we have the color box. This selects the first elements with class color box. After that again we have one query selector that selects the input element, and after that we have this item list query selector that selects the UL elements where the list item will be added. So these are the query selectors that we have provided to select the items. After that we are manipulating the elements. So this basically updates the text inside the h1 tag hello world to DOM manipulation demo. So this is basically targeting this h1 and it is replacing the hello world with the DOM manipulation demo, right? After that we are changing the style. It changes the background color of div color box to light blue, and then after that it adds the black border to the div. After that we have added the CSS class, and it adds the CSS class and highlights to h1 tag, and this class needs to be defined in CSS for styling effect. So we have already done that. So after that we have created one new element, and here paragraph creates a new element, and then it sets the content to this is new paragraph, and after that it gets added to the end of the body. That's it. This is the code for DOM manipulation. Now let us look at the event handling. After that we will look at the output together. So first of all, in event handling we have this click me event, right? So in click me event we will write click me function, and that's it. After that we have input event, and after input event we have hover effect, so that's it. Now let us go through the event handling code. So first of all, when the button is clicked, it changes the text color of h1 to red and the background color to the yellow. After that we have input event, and inside the input event, when the user types the input field, the h1 text updates dynamically to hello and the user input name, whatever it is writing in the user input. So after that we have this hover over effect. So whenever the user will hover over the box, it zooms in slightly, and when the mouse moves away, it returns to the normal size. So whatever the styling and the effects and event handling and the CSS styling we have mentioned here, we are changing these things dynamically into HTML document with the help of JavaScript. So that's what DOM manipulation is. So we will just save this code and we will just run it. So this is the HTML code, so we cannot run it from here. We have to click on go live. So here we have this code. We will just write the name here. Now it is changing to whatever name I am giving it. You can see hello Nidhi. I will click on click me, and then it is changing the color. So these are the features that we have applied. We have also applied this hover effect. You can see here we have added the event listener. So whenever I am clicking, it is adding one item here, right? And this is also getting changed in real time. So I am writing Nidhi, Nidhi Jha. So whatever I am writing, it is getting changed. That means it is getting changed in real time. So we have done this all with the use of DOM manipulation in JavaScript. So that's it about the DOM manipulation. We have learned how to select the element. We have learned how to manipulate and handle the event in DOM manipulation. So now comes the next part of our JavaScript tutorial, that is error handling and debugging. So in this section of error handling and debugging, we are going to learn about syntax error, reference error and type error. After that, we are also going to cover some try-catch block errors and error handling exception. So that's it. Now we will move on and we will just make one more file. We will just name it as handling.js. That's it. And now we will have a look at some types of error. So inside this error handling, the first type of error that we are going to see is syntax error. So a syntax error occurs when the JavaScript engine finds invalid syntax while parsing the code. This usually happens due to missing or incorrect characters, such as forgetting a closing bracket or typo in the syntax. So for example, we will look at one code. We will just write console. So this is the correct code, even without semicolon or with semicolon. We will just run this code. We are getting this output. Now what we will do, we will remove this and we will save it and we will run it. Now we can see there is a syntax error. So here inside this you can see your error, what type of error you are getting. Here you can see you are missing one closing bracket. So we will just put it. So syntax error is very basic. You have just made a error in the syntax. So we will just comment it. And next error is called as reference error. So a reference error occurs when you try to access a variable or a function that hasn't been declared yet. So I will write console.log. So I have written this console.log, my variable. I will just save it and run it. Again we can see here a reference error. Here you can see it is a reference error. My variable is not declared. So here we have not declared my variable anywhere and we are trying to access that my variable. So that is why it is throwing an error. So to fix it, what we will do, we will just declare the my variable. That's it. Now run it and you can see this JavaScript here. So this is the reference error. Now the next type of error is type error. First of all, we will just comment it out and next we will see the type error. So the type error occurs when you try to perform an operation on a value that is not of the expected type. That means, let us write let. Now here we have written let number is equal to 10 and number dot to uppercase. Now it is a number. It cannot be done in the uppercase or anything. So this is the type error. That means we don't have string here, but still we are performing this on the number. So this cannot be performed on the number. That's why this is the type error. We will just save this code and run it. So here we can see it is throwing the type error. Number to upper is not a function. So that's it. This is the type error. And so let's see how to fix it. What we will do, we will just do here let text equal JavaScript and here we will write. That's it. Save it and run it. Now you can see the JavaScript in the uppercase. So this is basically a pre-built function which we are calling here. So before we used dot number, that was not any function, but we can write the string name here and then to uppercase and then it will work. So that's it. This is how you deal with the type error. So now we are going to see handling errors with the help of try-catch block. Now for try-catch block, we are going to make one more file. try-catch.js. We will just close these files here. And we will go to try-catch block. So JavaScript provides try-catch to handle errors gracefully and prevent our program from crashing. So for example, first of all, here we are going to write the code for try-catch block. We'll just write try console.log undefined variable. This will throw a reference error. And then we have catch block to catch the error. And after that we have console.log code execution continues. Right, we will just save this code. Now let us understand this code. So inside this try block, we attempt to log an undefined variable which is not declared. This can cause a reference error, that we know, right? So the catch block catches the reference error. An error occurred along with the error message. And after that, the execution does not stop. The final console.log will get printed. So if we will write this code without a try-catch block, we will see an error of reference error right here. But we have added this try-catch block. So the error which is occurring in this try block, the catch will catch that error. And after that, it will continue the execution of the code. It will not throw an error. Without try-catch block, this code will definitely throw an error. So we will just run this code. And here you can see this code has been finally executed. It did not throw any kind of error. So this is the use of try-catch block. So yeah, we have covered DOM manipulation. We have covered error handling and debugging. We have covered the syntax error, reference error, type error. And after that, we have also covered try-catch blocks and handling exception. So that's it for the JavaScript. Now what we will do is we will move on to some new features of modern JavaScript. In that we will cover the template literals, spread and the rest operators. So we will just make one file as modern.js, and inside this we are going to learn about template literals, spread operator and rest operator. So these are the new features in JavaScript, that is ES6+. These are the features of ES6+, and we are going to cover this with the help of an example. So first of all, we are going to write about template literals. So let me just put it in comment, template literals. Then we will write const. So this is the basic code of template literals here, and then about the spread operator. So we will just write this and understand it. So that's it. This is the code for template literals and spread operator. So inside this template literal, instead of using the regular quotes for string, we are using this backticks. So this allows us to embed variables like this and this for making our string more dynamic and readable. So this we are using this $sign and the curly braces. We are using this because of the template literals. We are using the backticks, which allows us to embed this into our string. So that's it about the template literals. And now let's move on to the spread operator. So the spread operator allows us to expand the array and the object easily. So array basically has a fixed size. Whenever you are making an array, the size that you have given to the array, it is the fixed size of the array. So the spread operator basically expands the array and the object very easily. So here we can see we have created the array of 3, 1 to 3, and then after we have added some new numbers to the number array, that is 4, 5, 6, and after that the new numbers will be printed. So this is the use of spread operators and the template literals. Let us just save this code and run it. So here is the output. Hello, my name is Nidhi and I am 25 years old. So here we can see using spread operator we have just increased the length of the array. So these are the uses of template literals and the spread operator. So the next thing that we have to cover is a rest operator. So now we are going to write about the rest operator. We'll just give the comment as rest operator, then we will create one function, that is sum and values. It will return the reduce of total plus num and 0. Console.log using rest operator sum 10, 20, 30, 40. So this is our rest operator. So rest operator is useful when we don't know how many arguments will be passed. So here we have passed the arguments as 4. But whenever we don't know how many arguments are going to be passed in the function, then in that case we are using the rest operator. So we will just save this code and we will run it. It will give us the output. This is the output of the code. So now we have also covered the features of modern JavaScript, that are template literals, spread operator and the rest operator. So that's it for this JavaScript tutorial. In this tutorial, we have covered from the basics what is JavaScript, then we have covered why to learn JavaScript. After that, we moved on to the syntax, structure, comments, data types and operators in JavaScript. After covering these basic topics, we moved on to control flow and loops, and after that we have covered the functions in JavaScript. After covering functions, we have covered arrays, and after covering arrays, we have covered the DOM manipulation in JavaScript. And after finally covering the DOM manipulation in JavaScript, we have also covered error handling and debugging in JavaScript. And after covering all these things, we have covered the features of new modern JavaScript, that is ES6+ features. And by this, we come to an end of our video. I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment down any of your doubts and queries. We will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka's channel to learn more. Happy learning!